Well, here goes nothing. Please, Lord. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Tony's Corner, a great girth segment. I'm your host, Tony, the guy who's always digging up those hidden gems in cinema that deserve way more than they really get, honestly. Today we're stepping up to the plate with a real home run of a film, the 1994 classic Angels in the Outfield. If you're a fan of feel-good movies, baseball, or just stories that lift your spirits, buckle up because this one has got it all. And folks, we're going pro-Christianity on this review because this movie shines a beautiful light on faith, prayer, and the power of believing in something greater than ourselves, really. Plus, I'll dive into why this gem feels like a buried film in today's Hollywood landscape. Overlooked, underrated, and ripe with rediscovery, honestly. So, yeah, if religion or films that represent religious themes aren't really your thing, you've been warned. No, I'm not trying to alienate my audience in any sort of way, but as a podcaster who happens to be a Christian, this film is important to me, and I wanted to take this time to share it with everybody because I really feel that if you stay and listen, you might find a reason to watch this. Trust me, it's a good film. Before we get into it, though, a quick shout out to our listeners. If you're, tuning in on your morning commute or maybe on your way to the gym, or maybe you're just doing these at night when you're laying in bed, can't get sleep, dude, thanks for making this a part of your day. And if you haven't yet, smash that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get right into setting the scene, right? This is going to be a non-spoiler plot summary. Angels in the Outfield is like a family sports fantasy comedy, drama, if you will, directed by William Deere. It's actually a remake of the 1951 film of the same name, but the 1994 version brings more of a fresh, heartfelt spin that's perfect for the 90s vibe. The story follows Roger Bowman, a foster kid played brilliantly by a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Before he became the superstar that we see in today's films like Inception and The Dark Knight Rises and Don John, you get the picture. Roger's a huge fan of California Angels baseball team, who are, let's face it, the laughingstock of the league. Dude, if you are a Colorado Rockies fan or you're from Colorado, such as I am, you will understand this. That's another reason that I related to this movie so well as a kid. No, I'm just kidding. Rockies definitely came after this movie came out, if I'm not mistaken, but being that I'm a lifelong Colorado Rockies fan, sort of lifelong, I know exactly what it's like to root for a team that just massively sucks. Really, really sucks and can hardly fill a stadium. But anyway, back to the Angels. So they're on this massive losing streak, and their manager, George Knox, played, by the legendary Danny Glover. We'll get to that in a minute. He is at his wit's end. Roger's life isn't easy. He's dealing with family separation and the uncertainties of foster care, right? In a moment of pure childlike faith, he makes a prayer for the Angels to win the pennant, hoping it'll bring his family back together. And here's where the magic happens. Actual heavenly angels start showing up to help the team. Led by the wise and crazy Al, played by Christopher Lloyd himself, who you might remember as Doc, of course, from Back to the Future. This guy's in everything, man. But these angels intervene in subtle and miraculous ways. But only Roger can see them, leading to some hilarious and heartwarming moments. However, the film does weave in together films of hope, redemption, and teamwork, all pretty much set against the backdrop of America's pastime. It's got comedy, drama, and it's got a touch of fantasy, but at its core, it's about believing in the impossible. No major spoilers here, but trust me, by the end, you'll be cheering louder than a sold-out stadium. Something I've only seen once in my life as a Rockies fan. Now let's talk about the cast, because this movie is just stacked with talent that elevates it from good to great, dude. Danny Glover as George Knox is pitch perfect. He's gruff, frustrated, and dealing with his own demons, but Glover brings that signature warmth and depth. He's not the guy from Lethal Weapon after all, but he's here channeling a more vulnerable side. His arc is definitely one of the film's highlights, showing you that even the toughest folks can find renewal through that unexpected grace. And he's one of my favorites. But then there's the Tony Danza character, Mel Clark. the veteran pitcher he's seen better days. Danza's fresh off like Who's the Boss, and he nails the role of a guy facing the end of his career with like quiet dignity. His performance adds like real emotional weight, especially in scenes that touch on morality and legacy. More on that later. Tony Danza's awesome in this though. Now back to Christopher Lloyd as Al the Angel. Dude, pure joy. He's quirky, compassionate, and he delivers like lines with that wide-eyed wonder, like that childlike wonder that makes you really think about it and believe in the supernatural. Then there's Brenda Fricker, who plays Maggie Nelson, Roger's foster mom, with such like nurturing heart. You can see why she won the Oscar for My Left Foot. And dude, her work is grounded. Her loving portrayal with the kids is amazing. And dude, the kids, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Roger, is like the emotional anchor. And at just 13, he carries this film with innocence and sincerity that's impossible not to root for. Then there's Milton Davis Jr. as his buddy JP. He brings like the comedic relief and, the loyalty that every like great sidekick needs. I guess that's the best way to explain that character. Oh, and keep an eye out for some early appearances from future stars. Dude, after rewatching this, I couldn't believe it. Matthew McConaughey as outfielder Ben Williams. There's one. Yep, that's him before like the whole Dazed and Confused thing blew up. And then there's Adrian Brody as a player, dude, and even Dermot Mulrooney, in a small but pivotal role as Roger's dad. The ensemble feels like a team with chemistry that makes the baseball scenes like pop. There's a lot in this movie, man. A lot of stars that you'll catch them and you're like, holy, I know who that is. Director William Deere keeps things moving at a brisk pace, blending practical effects with early CGI for that angelic interventions, I should say. The visuals hold up surprisingly well for a 94 film, dude. Those like glowing angels and miraculous plays are fun without having to be over the top. It's Disney at its best, wholesome, entertaining, and with a message that sticks. All right, so let's get to the heart of this thing. Why is this movie so special? It's pro-Christian themes, for one, folks. In a world where Hollywood often shines away from faith or portrays it like cynically, Angels in the Outfield is a breath of fresh air. It's unapologetically positive about Christianity, showing the power of prayer, the reality of angels as God's messengers, and how faith can ultimately transform lives. I mean, I felt that when watching this. Think about it. The story kicks off with Roger's simple prayer. It's not some flashy ritual, it's a kid talking to God from the heart, believing that he listens. And guess what? God answers. This aligns beautifully with biblical truths like James 5:16. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. The film doesn't bash you over the head with sermons. There's no church scene per se or forced preaching, but it is very subtle. It reinforces that faith can work wonders. The angels themselves are depicted as like joyful servants of God. They're not like some vague spiritual force. Al even explains that they're there because the boss upstairs sent them, emphasizing divine intervention in everyday life. It's reminiscent of Hebrews 1:14, where angels are ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation. And the rule that angels can't interfere with free will, that's a nod to God's respect for our choices, adding depth without getting preachy, or overly preachy. There we go. Redemption is pretty huge here. The characters like George Knox specifically and Mel Clark, they find second chances. Mel's storyline, especially like just being a human, I guess is the best way to put it. But Mel's storyline with dealing like with illness and legacy, it touches on eternal hope. It's pro-life in the sense of valuing every moment as a gift from God. The film shows that no one's too broken for God's grace, echoing stories like The Prodigal Son. Even the foster care angle ties in. Roger's journey highlights community and chosen family, much like the body of Christ supporting one another. It's pro-family, pro-hope, and ultimately pro-God, portraying faith as a source of strength, not weakness. In today's secular culture, that's revolutionary. If you're a Christian parent looking for media that aligns with your values, this is it. It's wholesome entertainment that just sparks conversations about God, humanity, so on and so forth. But here's the million-dollar question. Why is Angels in the Outfield a buried film? As I had mentioned earlier, why isn't it celebrated more like the other 90s? Let's unpack it, all right? So released in 1994, did decently well at the box office. I think about $50 million domestically on a $31 million budget. But it got mixed reviews from critics. Roger Ebert, of all people, gave it 2 stars, calling it sweet but predictable. Others praised the heart, but dismissed it as just purely kid stuff. I think it's buried because it doesn't fit the mold of modern blockbusters. Hollywood today leans towards edgy, cynical stories with anti-heroes and moral ambiguity, a film that openly celebrates faith, prayer, and miracles. That's countercultural. In an era of like superhero reboots and dark reboots, and a lighthearted tale about heavenly help feels great. Plus, baseball movies had a boom in the late 80s, early 90s-ish. Think Field of Dreams, The Sandlot. But by the trend pretty much faded. This one got lumped in as just another sports flick. And overlooked, I would say. There's also the remake factor, okay? The 1951 original with Paul Douglas and Janet Leigh is a classic. But the 94 version shifted the focus to a kid's perspective, adding more fantasy. Some purists just dismissed it for that reason. And let's be honest, Disney family films from that era, like The Mighty Ducks, gets nostalgia, dude, like nostalgic love. But this one slipped through the cracks, maybe because of its Christian undertones. Maybe it makes it, too wholesome for ironic rewatches. Online, you'll find, people like calling it underrated, especially on like Reddit and Letterboxd. They praise it for its emotional depth and its like 90s charm, but it's not streamed as heavily as other Disney properties. Buried in like the vault, dude. In a post 9/11 world where cynicism reigns, stories of pure hope get sidelined. Yet, that's why we need it now more than ever, to remind us that faith can move mountains, or at least turn around a losing team, if that's the way you want to look at it. Personally, this movie hits home for me. Growing up, I watched it on VHS during family movie nights, and dude, it just sparked my love for stories where good triumphs through belief. As an adult rewatching it, I gotta say, I appreciate how it handles heavy topics like loss and abandonment with grace and optimism. It's not perfect. Some baseball inaccuracies like bug purists, dude. Like plays that would never happen in real MLB, right? But that's just nitpicking. The heart overrides it all. If I had to rate it, I'd give Angels in the Outfield a solid must-see like right now. It's uplifting, funny, and profoundly positive. Highly recommend for families, baseball fans especially, and anyone needing a faith boost. Stream it on Disney Plus or grab the DVD. Trust me, it's worth the dig. If you're someone that, you really need a faith boost, or maybe you just don't know where to turn into like this whole world of chaos, you just don't know where else to go, I highly recommend watching this movie. Man, I put this movie on because I had seen an ad for it on YouTube, like one of those, somebody posted like an old trailer or whatever. Well, I think it was a TV spot ad, and I just saw it, and I was like, oh my God, that's like a big part of my childhood. My mom bought it for me, and God, I watched it all the time. I couldn't tell you how much I watched this movie. And, I remember when I saw it, I was like, I got to show this to my kids. I put it on for them, and they fell in love with it. And it made me realize, even rewatching it as an adult, just how smart the movie is. It really was a movie that was just brushed aside because of the Christian undertones. If you can step away from that, or if you can be open-minded to listen to it, regardless, you'll find something in this film that uplifts you. It's a beautiful film. The themes are amazing, man. Even, again, if you're not a religious person, you will find the themes of hope in here that do uplift you. That's why I mentioned a faith boost. This is a perfect movie for a faith boost. Or say you're a young individual, right, and you're just looking for something new. You want to look into that 90s vault, as you kids call it. This is one to check out. This one will really change not just your spirit, but really how you look at some things. Like this one will really open your eyes to good versus evil and that kind of stuff. What they already try to put into films now, of course, but just go watch this one and you'll understand why. But before we wrap up, a fun little fact. Did you know that Matthew McConaughey's role was one of his first big screen appearances in this film? Yeah, dude. And the film was shot at real stadiums, including Oakland Coliseum, adding that authenticity to it. So it feels really real, dude. It's pretty interesting. But thanks, guys, for joining me on Tony's Corner. If you loved this episode, drop a review or maybe even tweet us at GreatGirthPod with your thoughts on buried gems such as this one. Next time, we'll tackle another forgotten fave. I'm thinking the Big Green. Until then, keep the faith, hit those home runs, and remember, folks, it could happen. Oh, and always stay rad.